Welcome to Under the Onion Skin, the podcast to get closer to independent animation directors and get to know some behind the scenes of their short films. My name is Giulia, and each time I talk to a different director about a short film they made. With this podcast, I hope to be able to capture a glimpse of what I love mostly about festivals, to have something to listen to when we're back to our regular lives, but above all to celebrate beautiful films, talented artists and storytellers. Welcome to Under the Onion Skin. I met Victoria Musci more than 10 years ago at the animation school we both attended. She's an Italian and Scottish animation director based in Turin and part of Studio Ibrido. This audio you're about to hear was recorded in June 2023 at the end of Annecy Festival in the park next to the lake, and she's telling me all about her latest film Tufo, which had its premiere at that prestigious festival. Tufo is a special TV of 26 minutes, mixed media 2D animation on live-action backgrounds with 3D props. It is an Italian-French co-production, and it was finished in 2023. Tufo is the true story of Ignazio Cutrò and his family, who were threatened by the mafia and isolated by friends because they chose to speak up. In this episode, among other things, we talk about struggles during long projects, finding the perfect collaborators and technical tricks.
Anch'io ho visto quello.
Ah sì? Sì. E lui l'avevo già conosciuto all'Animateca. Sto pensando se switch on in inglese così è più naturale.
Right, go ahead.
Okay, good. It's very nice that you're fine with that.
Yes, well, I
No,
totally
because for you it's with you it's very nice, but I was thinking if I ever have to interview an Italian person again, this is gonna be making everything more awkward.
You can put a mask on, like.
Yeah, it's like,
forever.
okay, it's not me, let's talk in English. But I didn't manage to see Tufo
Ah,
yet.
okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen it on Rai? No.
Is it online?
It's on Rai Play, but you in Switzerland you
I
can.
don't have it.
I can send you a Vimeo link if you
Yeah,
like.
sure.
Mhm.
I mean, what I mean for this conversation, I think it's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I know
You know the
the
story.
story. I know, the process.
technique.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I remember
Mhm.
very well. So I think it's. But I know, I remember we talked about it so many times.
Yeah, and quite a
I'm
long time ago.
And I'm so happy that it's done. You
At
know.
last, yeah.
Yeah.
You remember when we were at your house and I was writing down the interviews.
Yes.
I was telling you, oh, this is so funny. They're talking about when they got married and that they just met when they were 16.
Yes, I remember.
And
then
we
I
were at your
remember-
house.
Yeah, it's true. And then I remember when you went to Sicily to shoot. Maybe first it
Yeah.
was just a test, and then to shoot
Yeah.
the proper backgrounds.
Yeah.
And I think I already interviewed this week people that I knew from before, and I followed the process since the beginning. And I think when you know the backstory or when you know the backstage, you appreciate the project
Yeah.
even more. Not only because you know the effort, but you saw it.
Yeah,
growing.
when it was very young.
Yes, so
Yeah.
I'm very, very happy for you as well, so much,
Yeah.
because it's done and
Yeah.
you made it.
Yeah, it's a big relief.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The film is also it's been very difficult to make because of financial funding and because it's not the kind of typical product that you would see on TV or that you would see in. Also, it's not a short film, so maybe also because it was quite long, almost half an hour. I was very scared of doing it just by myself or with no funding, so I was obliged to look for funding.
Yes.
And that was the most difficult part. And but I think the nicest part of making this film was the human side, that everybody who took part during the years that it took to make it really gave something to the film. And starting from a long time ago when I did the interviews, and the first an illustrator came to Sicily with me, and then a script writer came, and we had this first encounter with the family we're telling the story about. That first input from these young creative people was already very inspiring, and then from then I went on to meet a French scriptwriter who was also very good at helping me create a structure for the story, and it was great to work with her, even though I only worked with her on Skype.
Yeah.
We had to work online, but it went very well. We finished the script, and then at last I met her, and she was twice taller than me.
Wow.
She was very tall and very different from how I had imagined her.
That's so funny when
It happens. But yeah, she went very well with her, and then gradually we got some funding. We went to do some location scouting in Sicily because the backgrounds were going to be live, and so we wanted to find the right places, which were actually the real places where the story took place. So we went to the court in Sciacca. We went to the places where the building sites were burned down. We went to the house, obviously, of the family. We went to the cemetery. We went to all the places we thought we would be shooting the film in.
Sorry if I interrupted. At that point, you already had a storyboard, so you already knew the shots? Or?
No, we didn't know that yet.
Okay.
I had done some research on the storyboard, and the script was closed, but no, there wasn't a finished storyboard yet. So we knew that the scenes were going to be there in these various places. So we just went to look for these locations. Yeah. And then after that, it was time to start the storyboard, and I worked with Pierre-Luc Grandjean, who's very nice, also French director, and he helped me give it a first go. You know, we had 3 weeks. We worked close, pencil on paper, very fast, and then editing very fast in Storyboard Pro. But it wasn't very satisfactory because our voices we did it in French with our own voices. It really didn't feel like the film I wanted to make, and also the producers weren't very satisfied. So from there I redrew the whole storyboard on my own, and then we started to contact people for doing the voices, the final voices, and I was inspired by a playwright called Emma Dante, who's Sicilian, and she is a director and playwright. Well, theater. She does mainly theater, but she was impossible to contact. She's famous,
like
and she was also making a film, so it was out of the question.
Yeah.
But with various contacts, we managed to find a person who works closely with her and who directs the actors in her plays, and he is very familiar with actors in Sicily, all kinds of accents. He's a very warm person, so when we met him, we were really inspired. And he said, I would be very happy to help you do the casting and find the actors. We had Ministry of Culture funding at the time, or we thought we had, because then we will discover further on that this funding was taken back. Anyway, we started in this direction, but the problem was that the dialogues were still very rigid. I had translated them from French. They were very clean Italian dialogues.
And this is because it's a French-Italian co-production, or
exactly. Yeah. It's a French-Italian co-production. The first version of the script I did with a French scriptwriter, so it was all written in French. So it was a bit. It wasn't very natural. The whole speech
it's very hard to write dialogue.
I think the scriptwriter was quite good. Yes. She did quite sharp dialogue, but it was not very Sicilian. It didn't feel very warm and Italian, and every day it felt very formal. Okay. So Giuseppe Cutino, who is the guy who directs actors I was telling you about, he said, he showed me some plays by Sabrina Petix, who writes plays, whereas he directs the actors. Usually he's a director. Sabrina is a real playwright, so she writes dialogues, and she's Sicilian, and I saw some of her plays on Vimeo and I really liked them. So I said, okay, we must work with her and change the dialogues, make them a lot warmer. So she came to Turin, and we spent 2 days rewriting all the dialogues of the script. And she was very, very good at also reading them out loud to us, to ourselves. And we said, oh, does it sound good? Does it not sound good? Does it sound natural? And I was amazed at how different Sicilian way of speaking is from Turin, the way of speaking in Turin. But it was really interesting, and we found some good solutions also to make it more moving. Especially there was some monologues that had to be convincing about the main character, who is trying to ask for help because he's being threatened by the mafia, but the police is not really helping. Magistrates aren't really helping, and so he is looking for journalists, any person. He goes and does talks and conferences who might help him to
tell his story.
And to protect him and his family. So it was. She did a great job, this playwright, and we were ready to go and record the voices. So I went to Palermo and we did this casting. We saw lots of young and old theatre actors, and we tried to find as many people who came from the province of Agrigento as possible, because apparently in Sicily there are so many different accents.
Yeah. But you mean like because you couldn't tell the difference, but there are apparently so many different...
Yeah, after a while I started to understand what you meant. It was quite different, really. Palermo, Catania, Agrigento, very different accents. So at least for Sicilians it was important. In the end we didn't manage to find actors who all came from the province of Agrigento because it's impossible, there aren't enough. But it was we got it close as possible. We recorded the voices. It was great. We were very happy. I did a sort of temporary edit of the voices, about half an hour, and with this I went back home to Turin and I started doing the final animatic with a storyboard, editing the storyboard with the good voices. But then yes, the pandemic broke out, and so I was working on my own at home, and gradually I was getting more and more happy with the result. But the problem was that when the pandemic ended and I had the animatic, I showed it to the producers and they didn't approve of it. They didn't like it. They didn't say, okay, I want to show it to broadcast. Because at that moment we needed to find a broadcaster to have the enough budget to do production. Otherwise,
but what was the reason for not approving? Like they had some kind of edits, they had some comments, or what?
They commented lots of things that I really didn't understand. Like, why does he do that at the bar? He should say this or that. He should say, hey, you guy from the mafia. And I mean, we had avoided throughout the whole script writing process to mention the names of the actual criminals, because we didn't want to do that kind of effect and create danger for the witness we're talking about. I think the main reason for the producers criticizing is that they were in serious difficulty with their production companies because all the live action was blocked and they were very busy trying to solve all their problems. So they didn't have time to work on an animatic for an animated film that is not commercial, that won't earn anybody any money. So this was why it was put aside, and they were trying to stop me from continuing. So I was actually quite convinced by this version of the animatic, because I had also, thanks to the new voices, I had managed to cut a lot of the story, make it more intense, change the order of certain sequences so that they worked better together. And so I was really happy, and I just didn't understand this refusal from the outside. So I said, okay, I need to go and do something completely different, and I went to do woofing for a summer and then the whole of the autumn. But I took the work with me, and during the period I was in autumn, there was a second lockdown in autumn 2020 in Italy. And I was in the countryside, cutting wood and gathering stuff for like pumpkins and vegetables from the orchard. But in this, while I was doing this sort of voluntary work, I did work a little bit on the animatic, but simply like adding music and changing slightly the rhythm of certain shots. So at the end of this process, that was another 3 months, the film was actually pretty much the same as what it was during lockdown, but I had some music. So when I showed it to the producers and I said, this is the last version, for me this is good. If you accept it, we continue together. Otherwise, I will continue on my own. They answered, oh yes, no, we like it, so we want to continue. And, so this, by then we were in 2021, but still we had not got any new funding. and we needed to start the film, otherwise we had to do the shooting, otherwise there would be no otherwise the film would just die. Also, we had one media, the development fund, so there was a little bit of budget for doing the shooting.
The shooting, you mean like the backgrounds?
The backgrounds,
yeah. So to go again, like the first time you went to Sicily, it's what I remember. It was like a scouting.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the second time was actually with the storyboard, getting the right shot.
The right shots.
Yeah.
So
and the right weather.
Exactly. June 2021, we wanted to do that, but also we wanted to start the animation, because otherwise, the film would never have been finished. So we made, in that year, I also co-funded our company Ibrido with my colleagues, and so we asked to enter as co-producers in Tufo, because if we didn't enter and we did all the work, then we wouldn't have any rights. So we wanted to get those rights, so if we did the whole film and we didn't get any funding, we would at least have a product that would be sold, and from those sales we would get the money of the rights.
Great.
So we did this agreement, and it was a co-production agreement. It was very difficult to make, because we had to call a lawyer, and they called their lawyers and they didn't agree, and then they agreed, and then it was a long process. But it allowed us to apply for production funding with the Ministry of Culture, and also talk to Rai again.
And this made Ibrido one of the producers.
Yes.
So you had, I don't know what's the
Les Contes Modernes is
French, Italian, and Ibrido another Italian.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So in 2021 we became co-producers. The French producer gave us the little bit of media money that was left, and we went to Sicily. 10 days, we did 330 shots, and it was very tight schedule.
And at that point, how many people were you two, in Sicily?
We were 4 people, and plus so it was me, Francesco Federico, and Chiara Lombardi, who was the director of photography.
Okay.
And Federico and Francesco came more as assistants to help organize everything.
And camera was Chiara.
Chiara was everything, camera and DOP and everything concerning the visual, concerning the videos. Yeah. And then more or less in the middle of the shooting days, Marion, a very good sound editor, came to Sicily. I had already worked with her, and she brought her microphone. I had also rented some equipment, and we recorded all the atmosphere, the sound atmospheres of all the places, partly while we were shooting, and then the last day we went and we did the shots that she had missed. And we did some footsteps and extra things that could be useful to do.
That's very nice
in the location. Yeah, so that was very nice, because there were some very typical sounds from Sicily that it was very important to record, and it was magical. And Marion had a very hard time, because she had a very long travel to come, and the day she arrived was the most important day of all, because we were going to shoot the final scene, which I'm not going to spoil maybe about what happens in the end of the film.
And
she was very tired, and we had also had a difficult moment with the family, because there was a moment after a few days we were shooting that they began to panic that we were recording things secretly, and that they couldn't trust us anymore, and they said, we are not going to come to do the final scene. And I was really, really scared, because also the trust I had created with them for years was being broken, and it was very, very stressful. And in the end we said, listen, we must talk. So we all went to talk at the place where the main character, the real protagonist of the film, works. And we had this very sincere talk where we all burst out crying from the team of Ibrido, because we couldn't believe that they didn't trust us after we had done so many efforts to make a film about them. And they realized that they were being mistaken, that we weren't trying to do anything on their back. And
but this also tells a lot about a family that feels constantly threatened.
Yes, exactly. Yes, they told us that journalists had come with hidden cameras, that it's always very difficult to trust people for them because, you know, they live with the constant threat of the mafia, but also with people trying to take advantage of their story to make money, or, you know, just to make
I'm so happy
stories.
you managed to talk it out, you know.
We talked it out. It was so difficult, and then they came in the evening. We did this the most important scene, and then the days afterwards we had a good time with them. It was we were completely reconciled, and
That's good, but I understand for the sound designer it was like
for
a tough
her it was
moment.
a very big shock because she
arrive
came in the worst
drama
moment, and then also we had to do some shooting at night the following days with taking all the trucks, taking some real big heavy trucks up a mountain and shooting with these real trucks and staying up until late because the visual effects expert from France had told me that in order to do burning trucks he had to have real trucks
to track.
Exactly.
Yeah. Usually the all backgrounds are live action.
Yes.
And all the characters or anything else is animated in 2D. And so these tracks were the only element that you actually had to put in the background, or not?
They were real, so they were driven. They were actually the trucks of the son of the main character. We also had to buy insurance for them so that they could be taken out of the premises of the house. But yes, there wasn't anything different from the rest of the shooting in that shot. When somebody was driving, but it's not in this case, but when we had cars in the shots, we tried to hide the driver as much as possible, so that then when we put the animation on top, there wouldn't be any shoulders or anything.
But so this means that in the animation the car is real or is redrawn?
The car is real, the trucks are real. The only thing that is fake are the visual effects.
And
the trucks, maybe when they were burnt, or when there was smoke, or when there was at a certain point there was an excavator that was burning. These are visual effects, but the guy needed to have the live action real reference. Otherwise it would not feel very real.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So that's what was very interesting. We didn't do it perfectly because he asked me also to do an HDR or some technical stuff I don't understand. But we tried and we didn't succeed, so that was...
It worked anyway.
It worked anyway. Also, when we were doing the shooting, every time we did a shot with the empty background and a shot with one of us in the scene, either acting or in the same size as close as the camera as the character.
To see the actual size.
Yeah, to see the size, to see the color of the skin, to see the light, the shadow. So it was a great reference.
That's a great point.
It was so
good point.
useful.
Yeah.
We had also thought about the palette, so we had printed the picture of the palette, and in each shot we should. But this wasn't used at the end.
I think this would be great, behind the scene material. All these videos where you are in the...
Francesco is working on it. I gave him all the videos on the hard drive. Say, do what you want. There's some funny parts.
Yeah.
There's also when we were working with a big machine that plows the wheat.
Okay.
It's a huge 1970s machine that churns up all the wheat and separates the seeds from the grass. And it was very funny when we were doing that, because it was like a big ship in the middle of a sea of wheat, and it was quite funny. And then after we did this shooting, we had already started animating actually, but the shots we had started animating were very difficult to mend afterwards because the backgrounds were so different from how we might imagine them.
Okay.
So the few shots we had done, we had to adjust.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, but we obviously from there we did the layout and animation on the real shots, which was great. But every time, instead of having the video we were working in Animate, instead of having the video that would have been very heavy, we just had a screenshot, like a still frame of the video, and we worked on that. And the character design had been done by Milena Tpallo. It was, I loved her style, and also it was very suitable for this film because the characters are quite like sculptures, they are quite solid.
Yeah.
And some people would say they are quite fat or chubby, but I don't think so. It's more they are like sculptures, so they are solid.
They are solid
and
structure.
this was the idea we wanted for the style, and because Milena has a bit of cubist influence in her drawings, and I told her we have to do straight and curved lines drawing, like an exercise we used to do at the animation school.
Yes, right. I remember.
She was inspired by that, and we did the design on the basis of that. And so, because we had the Bible already, a year-old Bible, we were very quick in doing the layout and starting the animation.
Yeah.
And Francesco had developed quite a quick way of doing the in-betweens as well. So, like we worked on Pela together.
Yeah. I remember you mentioned something.
He was working with groups, but I can't say too many secrets because this is part of the technical secrets of Ibrito, and I will be fired from Ibrito if I tell too many things. But yes, it was this kind of special technique that is not using symbols but similar.
Yeah.
So that it allowed us to do we worked very hard on the in-betweens and the ins and outs of the keyframes, but it's not all super fluid all the time. We worked very hard on the keyframes, the ins and outs, but it's very simple in a way. So we worked very hard on the animation. We had a schedule that meant we were supposed to do 1.5 minutes per month per animator. In the end, we are a bit slower, but we managed to get some interns also from the Politecnico, from the engineering school. One of them, and then
animating.
Doing the in-betweens.
Okay.
Because some of the students from the engineering university are actually very interested in animation and they draw very well. They just have not studied animation. But for doing in-betweens, you didn't need to have super incredible competence in animation. So we did that, and it was with one girl, and then later on in the shading process, another 2 girls. But for the animation, there was also an intern that we employed, who is a girl from the Centro Sperimentale, Elisabetta Bosco, and she helped us to do the animation.
And so how many animators did you have in total?
Well, I don't know if I should say it in truth.
I mean, so for sure there were some just for a while, then changes, so you never have a full team.
No.
But overall, I can.
How many people worked on it? I should say maybe 6 people.
Okay.
But we would have liked to do it with 5 or 6 people employed for 5 months full time. In the end, it was mainly 2 people doing 9 months, and then other people stepping in a week, 2 weeks, something like that.
But that's often the case because you have to find a good schedule for everyone,
And also we didn't have the funding yet, so we were working as a sort of investment.
Yes.
And then when we were at a good stage in the animation, we got the good news that we had passed the application for production funding, so at least we were covered for the animation from the Ministry of Culture, and we employed 6 people to do all the color of the animation in 3 weeks, I think. 3 or 4 weeks. It was super fast because it was animated, click, 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 click.
Yeah, color.
Yeah, it was just...
Actually, I wanted to ask you for the color because you used live action footage for the backgrounds, and you mentioned before you already had your color palettes for different things. Of course, I guess you were trying to get the best color as possible during the shooting, but then you had to readjust every single
color was one of the last things we actually faced, because when we did the live action, we shot in S-Log, which is a color profile that's very grey. So it was very ugly to look at. It was everything was very grey, and until a few months ago, we always watched the film with these colors, and the palette really clashed with the palette of the characters really clashed with the backgrounds. It didn't look nice at all. But we had to hand in a version of the film to Film Commission Piemonte in February 2022.
Yeah.
Even though the film wasn't finished yet. So we just said, okay, let's do like 2 weeks intense compositing, just doing the masks, so that at least the characters would enter the cars and not go through them or do strange things. And so we did this. We did 2 weeks of just masks, and then for the color we just did a very
Like
horrible effect in After Effects
like
that temporarily desaturated all the palette of the characters so that they would fit in. It all looked very grey, but at least they didn't hurt the eyes to look at it.
Okay.
So we did that for February 2022 so that the Film Commission would be happy and would leave us alone and not harass us. And then once we had done that, we had to face the whole post-production stuff. And what scared me most was the objects, because the objects, we had temporarily drawn them in 2D, but it looked really strange to have a 2D object sitting on a table in a live action background, like in old Disney films when there was a very saturated drawing of an apple sitting on a table and the table was maybe painted with gouache or watercolors. It always was very strange. So we wanted to avoid that, and the idea was to do it in CGI, doing all the objects in CGI, but we had no idea who would do that. Salvatore from our team, who's the only one who understands CGI, he said, oh no, it's very easy, but he was very busy, so he couldn't do it. And so we had all these people from engineering school applying, saying, please take us on as interns. They were really motivated. So in the end, one of these people, he was very interested in the idea of doing 3D props, because he was very interested in rendering and doing photorealistic objects.
Yeah.
And so we said, why not? Let's try, because we have no choice. We don't have any funding. There's somebody who is interested. Why don't we give it a try? And he was actually super good. He's called Gino Fakeki.
That's great.
And we started in October 2022, because there was a long time we were hoping that we would at least get a little bit of funding so that we could do also the music. We had still to do all the music, sound design, mix. There was quite a lot of expenses in color correction and compositing, so it was not easy to start without any money. But we had to do it, so we started with the CGI props, and he modeled them and textured them, and they look great. But then when he started animating them, he was a bit lost. So I said, okay, I need help. And I thought of Ludovica Di Benedetto, who is a friend who has become a very good CGI animator, and we were in the same class at Sperimentale. And I called her and I said, oh, please, could you help me with this? It's only like moving objects on animation that has already been done. So she was basically rotoscoping the 2D animation with the 3D.
Right.
And she said, yeah, okay, of course. And she got on really well with Gino. So they were working together for only a week, I think. In 1 week, she animated all the objects of the film.
All the props.
And because also many props were just still, they were just fixed, but lots of props were maybe more complicated. Phones, cigar, remote control, very subjects that were moving in the hands of the characters. They had to be animated, and she did a great job. She was very quick, and so in the end, this big nightmare of the objects was solved in quite a good way. And we still just had to finish all the compositing, and especially because we decided to take away all the lines of the characters.
Like the outlines.
The outlines, because the outlines were going to be only inside the character. So all the lines that define where the arms are and what the facial expressions, we had to keep them, because obviously.
But so it means that in the beginning the design was with outlines, and then after you realize, let's take it out, or
no? The design Francesco had done a few tests, and in the end, in After Effects, we found a sort of effect. He did various tests that would automatically take off all the lines of external to the character.
Yes.
It was with various masks and effects, but it was something automatic we managed to apply to the whole film. But still, there were various mistakes. There were noses going into the eyebrows and things that didn't look nice when you take away all the lines.
Yeah.
And so by hand with 2 interns, me and these 2 interns, we went and cleaned this all up.
Yeah.
And then when I saw these 2 interns were really smart and they were very enthusiastic about the project, we decided to involve them for the shading as well. So the shading that was handmade with a kind of spray effect, I don't know.
Yeah, but frame by frame.
Frame by frame. We did it in Clip Studio Paint.
Yeah.
And Francisco found also for that he found a smart technique to do it quite quickly. So instead of redrawing each frame, it was more like deforming
Moving
slightly.
the mask.
Yeah, because otherwise if we had redrawn it would have been too flickery, too annoying. And so we did that, and 4 people, 3 months, we managed to finish all the shading. And,
That's great. And when was that?
That was between November, December, January, beginning of February 2022, 23.
Yeah. So
Between the 2, last year and this year.
yeah.
So quite recently we finished all the shading, and that's when we applied for Annecy Festival.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to say that's the deadline for Annecy.
Yeah, exactly. So we sent the film to Annecy Festival without any color correction, no music, just temporary music and sound effects, and with shading. At least we had managed to finish the shading, which was very important for us because it helped the integrating the live action. Without the shading, it looked a bit flat. It didn't really feel like it belonged. Whereas with the shading, it really blended in a lot better. So we were very happy that at least for Annecy there was this version. And then.
And is it the premiere, or you had it another one?
Annecy's premiere.
Which is very good as a premiere.
Yeah, we were very flattered when we got the news. It was also, I felt mainly was because we chose the TV category, because it's a TV special.
Right.
I think if we had tried in the short film category, it would not have passed because it's very long for a short film, and because there's so much competition of very high quality films. Whereas in the TV, it's rare that you have something that is more artistic.
That's true.
So we were happy, but also, it was a relief also because we had to put so much effort to finish the shading.
Yes. No, but it's great that you made it to Annecy, and I mean, now we're almost at the end of the week, so maybe you can tell me how was. I guess you talked a lot about Tufo this week.
Yeah. Some people gave me feedback. People I knew who went to watch the film. And we got some feedback from our broadcaster Rai, who were very happy. They said that the audience was warm, and that was very nice because, I don't know, I'm a bit sorry that they screened it with subtitles in French. This was because I didn't understand that I should have burned both the subtitles into the image, because they only asked for French subtitles, and they asked for a separate file for the English subtitles. So I thought they would have put it in themselves, but it was partly my ignorance that I didn't know that they can't do that.
Okay.
And partly the fact that they didn't explain themselves very well, because it's strange also showing a film without English subtitles if it's in a foreign language. But apparently Annecy is like this.
Yeah, okay. So it was like Italian with French subtitles.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm afraid that many people didn't understand it. I'm also a bit ashamed because at some point I agreed with the technical people from Annecy that they would screen it with English subtitles, because I sent them a new DCP file. And I told some Scottish people I met, go and watch the film, it's going to be with English subtitles. And then actually today I found out that it was screened with French subtitles. So it's so annoying. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, well.
It happens. But apart from the feedback, I'm just very glad that people are watching it, and especially I'm so happy that back home in Italy, because it's on a Rai platform, people who have nothing to do with animation can watch it. So people for very ordinary, like teachers, doctors, or cleaners, they can watch it. And I am receiving so many messages from people who say, my aunt, the uncle, my cousin, they showed it to kids in the schools, and it's so nice to hear that it's sort of spreading in an underground way with the schools. people, teachers and students saying to their parents, hey, I should watch that because I saw it at school and I liked it. And so it feels like at last we made it out of the like professional world where it's only the professionals who watch our movies and get to speak to ordinary people.
Yeah, but that's also maybe the TV format.
Yeah, the TV
helps.
format helps that a lot. So I think we are trying also to push RAI and in general broadcasters to believe more in animation also for adults, and animation that is not only comedy and not only for kids.
For kids, yeah.
Exactly. So this is our motivation to continue and do more
great.
films. Yeah. And one last thing I wanted to tell you about the production process is that the music was a great question mark, because I had met these musicians that I really liked and I thought they would be great for doing the dramatic parts of the film, but I wasn't sure that they would be able to do the more upbeat part. So I was really doubting until the end, because the French producers had suggested working with a professional composer, but she's not Sicilian. He doesn't understand. I mean, he might be able to understand Italian feeling and music, but always in a rather external way. And I liked his touch. I liked his approach, but in my heart I felt I had to work with these two Sicilian musicians. And so in the end I just kind of blindly decided that I would do that. And I gave them quite clear information about what we needed. And also what really helped is because they're not very used to making original soundtracks. They've never done that before. We with Francesco we chose 2 songs they had already written, and we said, let's start from this. One of them represents the more serene moments, and the other one represents the more dramatic moments.
Yes.
And we can use the instruments and the melody from these 2 songs in a different and more abstract way during the film, so that we create the emotions of the characters. So at the beginning we created a more like family situation, just with 2 or 3 simple instruments, the guitar that was very sweet, very reassuring, and then a little bit of viola to make it a little bit disturbing. And then from the viola, when the film becomes more frightening, we had the harmonium coming in, and then we had the viola doing very anxiety, like a rhythm that was very, very, very disturbing. And then one of their songs that we had chosen, we put it full on when there was a moment of total discouragement and losing everything. This song really fills the scene because it's very deep, and it's almost a religious song about asking the Virgin Mary, what am I going to do, like it's like very, very dramatic song. I don't know how to describe it, but then from there we had to go back to a more upbeat mood, and I had already found a song, a piece of music by another Sicilian composer I really liked, but I was afraid of telling them, hey, what do you think if we use this piece of music, because I thought they would be offended. And actually, because they had heard it already in the animatic, they were the ones who said, and have you asked for the rights for that piece of music? And I said, what? You really would accept having that in...
So the producer...
No, these are the musicians.
The musicians.
Sorry, because I thought because they were going to do the original soundtrack.
So you thought the musician would have been offended because you asked someone else?
Yeah, to do this final piece of music.
Okay.
And then when they said that, and they said that they had already worked with this composer actually, and they knew him and they liked him, I was so happy, and I immediately started asking for the rights to that piece of music. They were very expensive, but we negotiated in the end. We found a way of getting that music. The author was very kind, and he gave the rights for the master for free, but the part of the publisher was more expensive. But so at last we had the soundtrack, the music. For the sound I was very confident because my friend had done the atmosphere, so it was only really doing the punctual sound, so the bruitage, and we did that in France with also a very good sound designer called Benjamin Rosier. And then we did the mix, and then we did all the final part and the color correction. So yeah, the color correction is actually another chapter which is quite important, but it was mainly Francesco who became then the art director of the film, because he really integrated the colors of the characters with the colors of the backgrounds when they had been corrected, when we had at last the real colors of the backgrounds. And he taught me how to help in compositing, to do a nice blend of light and the contrast of light and shade and shadow, and so he has the merit for making it all fit from a color and light point of view.
Yeah, it's a journey for real. I mean, I already knew, but it's a pleasure to hear, the whole process and the steps. It's good to realize how long it takes, you know, to make this kind of products.
Yeah, but in the end, one is very tired and very stressed, but then you remember the contribution of each person and how much. When you see the film, you remember, hey, he did that, she did that, and you just enjoy the fact of all these people putting their creativity and their love into what they have done.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, and I always am a bit afraid of forgetting to thank everybody.
Yeah, but I also wanted to say, I think one of the best moments is to make the thank you credits, when you're so grateful for all these people that took part, and you give them what they deserve.
Yeah, I think we've gone in detail quite a lot. I hope you don't have too much work to do editing.
No, don't worry. Actually, no, because it was not a lot of interruption. It was it's a good flow. From afar I was following, but I didn't know exactly all the steps. So it's very good to hear, I think. But I guess now that this is the premiere, you're going to have the fun part, or at least like it's a relief, but it's also like a celebration moment.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you're going to have feedback and you're going to hear from people.
Exactly. I really look for. I mean, Annecy is a great festival, and it's also a great place where people can see films. For me, I think maybe smaller festivals there will be more opportunity to talk to people and get feedbacks, because also I think the TV section of Annecy is really not so important. So
thank you for telling me the whole
story.
Process.
Always interesting. Each person has a different feeling, and some people say, I like the shot with a magpie, that was my favorite shot. The other person said, I didn't understand why you decided to use real cars. And
then some people see something that you didn't even think about.
Yeah, exactly. And some people just say, why are they so fat?
Yeah. As the final question, like not to break the ice, but like to finish. I always ask something very unrelated about onions.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you like onions, and how you cook onion, or like what's the best way to make onion?
I use them for other vegetables and for sauce.
Yes.
Tomato sauce.
That's a good.
So I just cook them in oil, basically. But also, I never cook them with butter. But sometimes I use the raw purple onion to do salad.
Yeah, like raw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not very often, because many people don't like it. But
because it's hard to digest.
Or you can use it in what's it called, guacamole.
Yeah.
But I don't often make guacamole, so I'm not sure why I'm saying this, but usually I use it for cooking. I use onions for cooking and to give flavor to soups. So I put a lot of onion in.
It's funny now that I'm asking you like culinary things. I remember that when we were in school, I remember you made this, or before probably, you made this risotto animation.
Ah, yes.
Fun. That was fun indeed. And I think there were onions there.
Yes, there were definitely onions, because it was a risotto with mushrooms. So I filmed my mother preparing it, and then I painted over it.
Yes, no, I really liked the technique. It was like collage, but top motion
fun.
cut out collage.
Chopping up the onions. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the chat I had with Victoria, and that you're now interested to go and watch Tufo. You can find Victoria and Studio Ibrito online All the links are in the show note. And this is all for today and for this episode of Under the Onion Skin. Thank you for listening. Until next time with another director and a short animated film. Ciao!